Everybody, if it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that means it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Here on the eve of this Turkey Day, joining me as always, my own personal Pocahontas. It's Tom. How you doing, Tom?
Wow, Pocahontas, you are really reaching now. I don't even get to be a griff dog. Okay.
Nope. You are the Pocahontas to my John Smith.
Ugh.
So there you go. That's how that goes, Tom.
I see. Can you hear more disdain in my voice?
Sure. I'll leave our viewers out there to determine, or for that to determine the true nature of our relationship then. So, we welcome you all to another episode of Warhammer Weekly. It's just Tom and I tonight, obviously being this pre-Thanksgiving show. We wanted to take some time and just the two of us give thanks to all of you, the community who's made this show great, who's stuck with us now throughout so much of our first year. And it's just been a really awesome ride, and we certainly intend to keep going far into the future. And so this show is dedicated not to all of you, I guess. And through that, we're going to answer a bunch of your questions, and that's going to come up later.
Did you just say not to all of you?
No, not to us, to all of you. I probably said it wrong. You know what I mean? Let's not get hung up on the details. So, but as always, we're going to start off with some news. So, Tom, let's kick it off. We got some big stuff.
Yeah, so we got the Archon stats kind of rolled out, which is significant. Do you have those by any chance?
I don't have the photo ready. I'm sorry. That one I don't have because I'm as you can see, I'm broadcasting from another secret location, an underground bunker. I've escaped from the Lizardmen, but now it's still touch and go. So they're coming out.
Clearly, there are bodies hiding just off screen there.
Clearly.
So we got the new Archon stats, and as expected, he's a beast.
Mm-hmm.
What were your thoughts on where his numbers ended up landing?
Yeah, I mean, I like him. I don't think he's like combat-wise. He's certainly incredibly strong. He's not the strongest, craziest combat thing I think that's out there. There are plenty of things that could kill him. Just a horde of idiots around him are going to cause him a problem, right? I mean, he is very afraid of getting mired in a group of like 30 skeletons. He's going to wreck a bunch of them, but they're going to do a bunch of damage to him too.
Yeah, man, I was so not impressed with the fact that he does not have basically any rend to speak of. Like, he has like a rend of stupid, like small amount. Like, what is it? -1?
Yeah, his best rend is -1. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. I expected more out of you, Archon. That's what I'll say.
Well, I mean, the Slayer of Kings or whatever, still no joke against a hero or a monster. It's going to do some significant action. That being said, I think this guy's nightmare is getting surrounded by a horde of like Saurus or Temple Guard, right? With those Stardrake shields. They're just going to give they give his rend the laugh, and they're going to be real hard. There you go.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, it's really I don't know, 20 wounds. Yeah, I'll take it. But I don't know. I just wasn't real impressed with just overall like his numbers. I would say that given the size of him and the bulk of him being as far away as he is, there's not going to be a lot that's within 1 inch of his tail.
I'm not too worried about that. That being said, I think as a total model, he's very impressive.
Agreed. Do you have the photo of, or do you want me to pull up the photo of his comparison from the newest White Dwarf that's just leaked?
Yeah, pull that up. I don't have it handy. But he's, I think what's relevant about him is, to me, he's a magic user. He has 2 spells a turn. He has a host of good defensive abilities. 4-up armor, 4-up to ignore spells, and I did have that one. I thought you meant like the actual, like him on his bad boy on.
We covered that last week.
Transmuted horse. Yeah, sure. We got a clearer picture this week where you can see that he is over 12 inches tall. He is over a foot tall from the tip of his wings to the bottom of his base. He is a foot tall. Oh yeah.
So another interesting thing that has come out from this leak is the fact that his scale is different. He is not man scale anymore.
Well, he's been empowered by the Chaos Gods for quite a while, so sure.
Certainly. He is growing. No matter how much he wants to hold on to his humanity, it's not looking good.
He does still have the mortal keyword.
He does.
Yep.
So, but he's really big. That's the point here.
He's a big dude. But, I mean, all Chaos Warriors are big dudes, right? If you put a Chaos Warrior, even a normal Chaos Warrior, next to, say, like an Empire State Troop, I mean, he's that scale bigger than his kin, right?
But, let me point this out. Like, this is a 25 mil base next to him.
Yeah.
So what that tells me is that this guy is bigger than the Blight Kings.
I think he looks pretty Stormcast sized to me. He looks pretty Blight King sized to me.
I don't know. We'll see. He looks very big. So for those that are wanting to proxy or to change his model for some reason, that could be a problem. That's all I was going to say.
Sure. Well, I think the body of him's good. You maybe hack off the sword. You might be able to do a slightly more impressive sword. I would keep his shield. It's pretty classic. But yeah, I'm going to certainly take a knife to this thing. I'm not afraid to cut up a $165 fig when I get it. I'm going to chop it all up.
To following up with this, we had the news come out this week that we have another set of knights from a second source confirmed that we have a set of knights coming the week that follows. Now, the one person that has had eyes on these miniatures, these new knights, said that they are painted up in the undivided colors. So rumors are kind of circulating. We still don't have images of them yet, but rumors are kind of circulating that they're the swords of chaos, which are like Archeon's personal retinue.
Yes. And I'm expecting these, like the other thing they mentioned was that these were the most impressive knights they had ever seen, that these guys were just hyper detailed and just unbelievably mind-blowing. And I can't wait to get my hands on those guys too. If they're that good. I love the normal cast knights. I think they're tremendously good figs. And if it's that much even better than them, it's an exciting time to be following the Dark Gods, that's for sure. Especially if you're a model whore like myself.
Well, it just so happens that I am. So
there you go.
What's next? Black Friday deals. Man, do we have a lot coming down the pipe this week.
Yeah. Absolutely. I will share this up. So
yeah, please do. This is kind of our special edition week, and so one of the things we're also going to cover in addition to the normal stuff is to cover the kind of the general stuff. Can you zoom in on that at all?
Oh yes, I can. There we go.
Much better. So we have here some of the Black Friday deals that have leaked from the stores. And it looks like they're going to have both in-store and online deals. These are some of the in-store ones. Now, for anybody that knows basic math, they'll notice that when you add up these like units, they don't add up to that amount. So, for example, in the Longbeards Ironbreakers, that dwarf block, that just retails for like 50, 100, 145. I
think we said 165 when we told it.
166, yeah. And see, this is what happens when you're painting dwarves. You know what everything's retailing for. Obviously that's not 225, and so everybody knew that something else had to be going on here. Another one leaked out of a document out of the GW of Milan. They posted it on their Facebook site. And it's these same bundles, only there are multiples of some of these boxes for them. So, for example, in the dwarf set, it's a Rune Lord, a Gyrorammer, Gyrocopter box, and then 2 Hammerer boxes and 2 Ironbreaker boxes.
Right.
And so most of these deals, it looks like, are coming out at about the 20% mark. So on one hand, it's about the same retail as what you would get from a lot of the other standard like third-party retailers. On the other hand, if you want to support your local GW store, this is a great opportunity to do that, because you're getting it for the same price as you would normally discounted elsewhere.
Right. Yep. And and then of course this is the in-store stuff. The other thing that's going on in store is what you had mentioned right before the show, right? Which was the coupon or whatever.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So I got this. I swung by my GW store today.
Here, I'll stop sharing, and so you can show what you're holding up there.
Yeah, so I stopped, and they had these little coupons. I think they were going in all the bags. And what it is it's introduce a friend. It's Battle Brothers. Introduce a friend to the Worlds of Warhammer. And so when you buy a starter box, from your local store. They will give both you and your friend purchasing the starter box a $15 coupon, and it's transferable. And so, yeah, I mean, they're basically kind of marking down starter boxes and incentivizing new players, and yeah, yay.
There you go. Yeah, no, it's cool because it's that's the Dark Vengeance set for 40K is what they selected, and obviously the Age of Sigmar box.
Yep.
For that. By the way, Tabletop Mini says hello. How you doing, Tabletop? Glad to have you join us again. And James Squire says he likes the older Archaon better than the new one. That old one is super classic, and it's one of the best like posed minis that GW ever made. But
Vince knows all about that. It disappeared off the GW store.
It did. It disappeared. Yeah, sorry if you didn't get your Archaon. That made me very sad. I had seriously 2 weeks ago, I was like, I think I might get this model, but I'm not going to get it right now. I'll just wait and think about it. And then it disappeared, of course. But anyways, that being said, I like the old one a lot, but you can't argue with a foot-tall, giant, crazy, three-headed monster. They can both be good. It's okay.
No, certainly.
So, yeah, we've got the coupon. You've got that. If you go into your store, and I know that they said, I think your store manager told you that there's, the individual stores are going to have some special deals based on sort of what they have and what they've got available.
Yeah. So one of the curious things about this is putting all the pieces together, because we've gotten a bunch of leaks from different stores, and it's all the information doesn't square. And so, like, for example, you saw that sheet just a minute ago that Vince had that didn't have numbers and it didn't add up. And what was kind of alluded to me was that the deals are going to be based on the local inventory. So whatever the inventory, I'm guessing for the local store is, probably not the region, probably local store, that's like, it'll be bundled appropriately. So the store owner, the store manager, or whoever, I guess, are being informed of what their bundles are for the local stores. So it's and which is why, like, we have the default, but we don't know how many of each unit that they're being authorized to bundle in with that. That deal is going to be available on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday only. So, and they will not be selling it after Sunday. So you need to get in there and make your purchases if you want to buy into any of these bundles.
Yep.
And so one of the other.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's a good time to just swing by your local GW if you have one. But if you don't, segue.
Yeah, so there's also some online bundles. And what's so interesting about that is that we looked at, do you have the online bundle?
I do.
List? Will you pull that up for me?
Yep. I will zoom in again. Zoomy zoom.
Yeah, so obviously we have no idea what are in a number of these. And
although
I know
some of them do match to the formations, right? So like the Skyborn Slayers, the Brass Stampede, these do match up with existing formations, some of them. So it could be that that's literally what's in there.
We have no idea what's in the Grand Army of Nagash. But at
$900, yeah.
Yeah, and you have to assume that that's reducing 20%, obviously. Like, generally 20% is what we've seen the discounts on these bundles. So you have to wonder, like, what is that? Is that everything? Everything.
Just all of it, all the undead.
All of the undead. Yeah, so there's a number of other just really interesting bundles. Like I said, we don't know what most of these are. I also picked up, can you switch to my screen real quick?
Sure. Well, hold on. Before you leave, I want to talk about this action here.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
So not only does it have 40K, of course, over on here, like we saw that we had seen the Wraith host previously had gotten spoiled, right? And not only does it have the Age of Sigmar, the Warhammer ones, but look at this. We've got 4 Lord of the Rings bundles, 2 of which apparently in America here we're not cool enough to get, or one of them here. But the Mumak Warherd. Now, Tom and I talked a lot about this one. So the Mumak, for everybody who doesn't know, which I probably everybody knows, but it's the big elephant, right? It's the big elephant from the Return of the King that has all the Easterlings and whatever on it. And that thing is amazing. It's huge. It's got like 13 dudes on the top of it.
Yeah, like a 3-tier Howdah.
Yeah.
And here's the reality. Like, if you are running Chaos, man, this is a great model for the War Mammoth, which is in the Tamurkan PDF. The 22 wound, the current champion of wounds in the War Scrolls right now. And so it would make a great model for that. So with the Mumak Warherd, we don't know the numbers, but at 235, I'm anticipating that you're probably going to get 3 of these bad boys.
Yeah, we're hoping for a triple Mumak assault. I think that's what I want to see. All of these, by the way, are there you go, online offers. So yes. These you'll have to go to the site, and we don't know, are they going to go active like by country? Does New Zealand have access to them when the New Zealand hits midnight and it rolls across the world? So chances are we'll be able to tell. Like we can all go to the New Zealand site tomorrow. When we're all sitting down for turkey time, you can leave your family behind and go check, sweet Warhammer online bundle deals.
Absolutely.
Now I'll switch to you, Tom.
Yeah. So I also picked up the current gift guide, which is the holiday gift guide, and some pages out of this were leaked, and like a week ago or within the last week, and it has a lot of it has the Storm, the starter bundle and stuff like that. It also has some stuff that we haven't seen yet. So it has the Storm Cast Eternals expansion set, which is releasing on 12/5, as well as the Khorne Bloodbound. I didn't actually go through, because I'm lazy apparently. I didn't actually go through and figure out what models come in each of those bundles, but they're coming. But more important than that was some other bundles that we haven't seen. And so, for example, we have the Stormcast Chamber Command right here, which is basically all the Stormcast characters. And that's being bundled up and shipping out. And then we also have this the Stormcast Eternals Devastation Brotherhood.
Yep.
And so
both of those are formations. The top one is the Lords of the Chamber or something, Lords of War, and the bottom one is Devastation Brotherhood.
Yeah, and there's obviously some of that for all the different armies. There's Nagash's Conclave of Death, which is Nagash and his 3 Mortarks. Oh yeah. So I say all of this to say there's just some really interesting stuff that I think we need to pay attention to some of these bundles, because the math, when you're starting to actually look at this, real discounts are coming out of this, and we kind of mentioned it in a previous week. But I think it's worth putting a finger on this, a point on this. And the Seraphon Thunderbeast host, I think, is the perfect example of why this is the perfect example of the significance of this. So if you guys aren't familiar with the Thunderbeast War host, it launched the other week. It is a single box. It's sitting on my GW shelf. It's sitting on your game shelf, Vince, at your game store, right?
Yep, at my friendly local game store. Yep.
Friendly local game store. It retails for $210 normally, and in there you're getting a Carnosaur kit, 2 Stegodon kits, and the Ripper Duper Dudes kit. And so I think retail added up was
it's a couple dollars short of $260.
$260, yeah. So $250 something. And so they're selling this base at $210. So they're already cutting at the 20% with this box of buying this unit. And because these are singular boxes, bundled boxes that are going to other retailers, you can also get the additional 20% on this.
Right.
And so, for example, the War Store, which a lot of people shop from, is a 20% markdown on all this stuff. So that means that this box that's $210 is normally $159 through their website, or $162 or something through their website. Which means that you're getting it for literally 50% of retail almost. Not 50%. You're getting 60% of retail, which or close to it. That's pretty honking crazy. Another one worth mentioning that is on pre-order right now that I'm actually going to pull the trigger on this week. And you'll see me doing some of my test paint jobs for this for hobby time later on. But is the Chaos Dreadhold Hellfort. Okay. Now the Hellfort, this is for those of you guys who aren't familiar with it, this is obviously the big fortress. They've offered a new bundled pack that's coming out this next week. And in this bundled pack is 2 of the towers, technically 6 of the walls, because you're getting the Malefic Gate. So you're getting the Malefic Gate, 2 towers, basically 6 full wall pieces, and then 2 broken wall pieces. So the retail of this, so the significance of this is twofold. One, the retail of this, of the things that are currently being sold from that kit, is over $400, or right around $400. It's also coming with 2 pieces that aren't available either standalone or in any other bundle. Like, so it's only available through the Telfort. And this bundle is retailing for $290. Okay,
Right.
so it's under that 20% mark. That's actually like closer to what, 25%?
Yeah, close to 25. And then you're going to be able to get another 20 off of that somewhere at least, right?
Yeah.
And with the War Store running their extra 5% off of their normal total, you're up to like you can really push it. So
yeah, you can pick up
some figs.
Right, like so, this week through the War Store, like I called and confirmed because they didn't have it on their sheet, and I called and confirmed that you will be able to order the Hellfort through them, and it's at like $220 basically, or around. It would be around $220 or $225 probably, with the extra 5% off. With tax and all that, or I don't know if they do that. Anyways,
Sure.
It'll be around that, and it would normally retail base, without counting the 2 bonus end caps that are like broken walls. It is going to be the retails at $400. If those wall pieces are the same as the normal wall pieces, then it's actually a $450 retail that you're getting for literally like $225.
Right. So 2 quick things. James Squire said the Nagash box includes 3 models of Nagash at that price, which is a funny comment. It'd just be a bunch of Nagashes. And he also corrected me that the Mumak has Haradrim on it, not Easterlings. Yes, you're exactly correct. I am sorry that I made that mistake. Thank you, James. It absolutely is Haradrim.
So the final, I just want to get to, additional sales this week. War Store, as you mentioned, we don't know the exact. Last year, it was an additional generic 5% off your order above and beyond the 20% they normally do. So it's not 25%, but it's 20% and then reduce 5% more. So there is a math, it's closer to like, what, 20-something percent, 20. Yeah, anyways.
It's less.
Yeah, it's less. It's not the full 25, but it's still better discount than you're going to find almost anywhere else. Underground Lasers, which is an MDF terrain website, is offering for 1 hour early in the morning, Friday morning, 50% off of everything in their store, for a 1 hour from like 6 to 7 a.m. and then 20% off during the rest of the day from everything in their MDF terrain. So that's Underground Lasers. Frontline, which is another store, supposedly they're running a 40% off all AOS stuff. And I sent them an email to try to get details on that, and they haven't responded back to that. So I don't know. They said stocks are really limited at this point, so I don't know what that entails. I don't know if it's just a starter set. I don't know if it's terrain. But anyways, so I'll post in the comments if that gets clarified in the next day or two, for those interested. 25% off of all other GW stuff, and they're offering 20% off this weekend on all the fat mats for those that are fans of the fat mat. So that was Frontline. Malifaux's running some deals. Mantic last year had 15% off of all their miniatures. I'm not sure if they're running their deal. They haven't mentioned anything about it yet. So, yeah.
All right, good stuff. Yeah, and Tom, Tom will send me those links, and I'll put them in the show notes so you have links out to all those sites if anyone's interested. Final piece of news for today, I think. We have nothing else there, right, Tom?
Nope.
All right, final piece of news. Here we go. The contest. That's right. You thought we forgot because I didn't mention it at the top of the show, but no, I was just letting it simmer down now. All right. So last week, obviously, we had Merrick on the show, and he had a rather generous contest that he offered for everybody to put down into the comments last week, a special character of their choice within the Lizardmen army, and one of those would be chosen at random today during this week's show. And then Merrick will personally sculpt that mini for you. As those who might know Merrick, he's quite an adept sculptor and has done many Lizardmen actually from more or less scratch, and they're all amazing. So he is going to sculpt your special character of choice and ship it to you all free of charge. That is a really amazing offer of a lot of hours and work and cost. So big, huge shout out and thanks to Merrick for that contest. Totally awesome and very much in the spirit of thanks. So thanks, Merrick. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to decide who the winner is. So I'm going to lock it on myself, and we're going to share up And we're going to go over to my list. So as you'll see here, he had promised a hat and such. I don't have a hat. I'm sorry. I couldn't print all these out and tear them into little slips of paper because that's ridiculous. Well, we have 43 names, as you can see. So here we go. Everybody's in here with their special character of choice over here. And so now what we're going to do is we are going to go to randomnumber.org, and we are going to generate a number between 1 and 43. And that will be the winner. Tom, are you excited?
I am so excited. I am number 2. If number 2 is the winner, hot dog. That's all I'm saying.
I don't know how we didn't construct the rules so that Tom couldn't participate. That was a clear oversight on Merrick's part, but yeah, there you go.
That's what I need, more miniatures.
Sure, absolutely. So 1 through 43, everybody's name is in the hat once with their various special characters. And so, drum roll, generate. 32. 32 is the winner. Let's see who 32 is. 32, David Cooper with Gorok. There you go. All right, David. So we're going to need to talk. I'll probably respond back to your comment on last week's show and tell you, like, hey, you won. But there you go. David Cooper is the winner, number 32, and he's going to sculpt a Gorok. There we go. I was personally, I'm not going to lie, I was personally hoping for a Nakai the Wanderer to win. Just because I thought that would have been a cool one to win. But there you go. Congratulations, David. Super awesome. And we'll hook you up with Merrick and such and get that all working. So there we go. So with that out of the way, let's do a quick copy time. Tom, I can't help but notice you're working there. What are you working on?
Well, actually, it's funny because nobody can actually see what I'm doing because when there's only 2 of us. So you're actually the only one that can see me working. Thanks for outing me. So I'm actually working on the bottom part of a Dreadhold right now, one of the towers. I am attempting to figure out what my color scheme is going to be in as I'm anticipating my purchase later this week.
Very nice. Yes, I finished up my War Shrine of Tzeentch there over the weekend and finished up some Beastmen and finished up Karnak that I had been working on. I was clearing off the desk of a lot of pending projects, and what's back on my desk at home is currently my Chaos Lord, my mounted Chaos Lord.
Speaking of Chaos Heroes, for those that didn't catch this, who aren't Twitter followers, who don't do the Twitter, Vince, our very own Vince Venturello, which he would probably never toot his own horn, his Demon Lord, Tzeentch Demon Lord that he had shared on Twitter was retweeted by GW's Twitter account, which that's a pretty awesome like acknowledgement. So kudos to you, Vince. And it's going to do nothing to help the rumors that you in fact do work for GW.
Yeah, no, I thought that was pretty awesome. I was very proud of that model and how it turned out. So no, it was great. And that was very cool. It was a very cool thing for Games Workshop to retweet that. So I thought that was really
clearly
good.
They are fans of the show.
That only confirms. I knew they were watching every week. All right. So yeah, so that's what's on my desk. I have got a lot of chaos, and some of it's going to be budget of Sigmar, and some of it's just going to get painted outside of the budget of Sigmar because it's time. It's time to go full Tzeentch. We're going full on. Also, somehow I don't think Archaon's going to fit into the budget of Sigmar, but that's okay. He's going to be hitting my desk the moment he's out.
Certainly.
So with that, I thought we would turn to the main segment of our show, and that is our sort of Thanksgiving spectacular. It's been we started the show at the beginning of this year. We're not quite up to a full years of show yet, but I know I'm personally really grateful for all of you out there watching, for all of our viewers, all the subscribers, everybody who's come along, who watches every week, who comments, who engages in great conversations. It's awesome. And, we do this every week because we love it. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. There's no other reason why we would do this. And I love interacting with the community, with everybody. And I just think it's a heck of a lot of fun. And that's because of all of you. And so since this is Thanksgiving and it's the appropriate time of year for that, I just wanted to stop and say thanks to everybody. We really appreciate it. We appreciate you, everything you do every week to make this awesome. Because if it wasn't for all of you, there wouldn't be any show or point to this. So, Tom, what about you? Any similar thoughts you wanted to share?
Yeah, I would just say that, you know, I'm relatively new to the game. This is something that, I mean, I've been basically on board. I bought my first army last August, like a year ago, August. So I've been playing for, 15 months. Been a part of the community for that long. And it's just been so wonderfully supportive and welcoming. And so it's been a delight to be able to engage in community here and to share beloved, hobby stuff. We put a part of our heart and soul into all these projects that we are investing into. And so there's just a degree of sharing there that it's been a pleasure to do that with the community.
Absolutely agreed. And so what I threw out to the community tonight was rather than have a feature sort of segment where we talk about a set thing, I thought we would do a full-on Q&A. And so I said, if you have some questions you've always wanted to ask us, we'll answer anything. We will answer anything. So if you didn't get your question in already, you can throw it in the Q&A, which is turned on. But we're going to work our way through all the questions that people left for us. So this could go for a while because people responded. So, Tom, are you mentally prepared to answer a lot of questions?
Yes, I am. Let's do this.
If anybody else watching right now, viewers out there, if you've got questions, throw them up in the Q&A. We will see them, okay? All right. So let's start at the beginning. So Skeleton Flower said, I know it's called Warhammer Weekly, but would you ever consider doing an episode focusing on some other game, like Malifaux, for example? Would we do like a Malifaux episode? Tom, what do you think about that? On like a very special episode focusing on another game in the community.
This is what I would say. The first thing I would say is that it would be awkward to cover another game in Warhammer Weekly. That said, we already do that to various degrees. We just had a Ninth Age show, and as much as Ninth Age wants to be Warhammer, it's not Warhammer. It's a spin-off of Warhammer. And so it's Warhammer-esque as much as like Kings of War is Warhammer. And so, or as much as Age of Sigmar is Warhammer. No, I'm kidding. So I would say that, yeah, I think that it would definitely be within the realm of possibility.
Yeah, I agree completely. I certainly don't have any problem with it. I've definitely, Malifaux would probably be my first one up if we were going to go really outside the box. Just because that's the other game that I have the figs for and really love and would love to and would gladly talk about. And I know there's lots of people out there in the community like Ant and Nicholas Belair and people who, play Malifaux regularly. So I would definitely see that on the calendar. And I think what we would probably do is slot those kind of shows into the interim periods in between releases or something like that. Maybe if there's, when there's not heavy Warhammer news where that's like, this is what we have to talk about all show because the world is going crazy. It's the perfect time to spread out. Because in the end, we're all wargamers, and the reality is miniature wargaming isn't a huge community. We are all, like, especially in the fantasy miniature wargaming, we are all a rounding error on the participants in most games like D&D or Magic or something like that, right?
Yep.
They could lose our entire community and not notice the difference in sales. And so I think it's important not to, form into little camps. I love a lot of different miniature war games and have played a lot of them. And I would love to go in that. I'll tell you what I'd love to do sometime, Tom. I'd love to do a Go Deep episode with John Talby because that guy knows some stuff. Talking about Judge Dredd, going for some Hail Caesar, right? Just really get in deep on some more obscure stuff. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, agreed. That would be enjoyable.
Okay. I'll switch over to a question that came in live here. So Erasmus Berger says, if we were to get a Tzeentch equivalent of Blightkin or like the Blight Kings or the Wrathmongers, what kind of models and stats would you expect? Oof. We talked about this one. actually kind of on the side. I'll tell you, and I already have my answer. Snake surfers, or not snake surfers. I'm sorry, shark surfers.
Yep.
I want it to actually be like the manta rays that pull like the burning chariot and the basically the screamers. Only I want chaos warriors surfing on the back of them. They seem strong if they can like pull chariots around and stuff. So
you totally took the example right out of my mouth.
Yeah. That's got to be the winner, right? Because they could be big, cool, like monstrous pseudo cav, maybe more akin to like
Snake
Pegasus Knights in Bretonia, right? About that tough. Like they'd have some flying. They'd be like mobility. They would be like tougher than most of the stuff in combat in Tzeentch, but weaker than the, you know, like true heavy monstrous cav and stuff in other places, right? Sort of a middle ground. So yeah, there you go. That's my answer. And by the way, those would be awesome. I might just convert some up because I've got a bunch of old Screamers and extra Chaos Warriors. I might just pre-convert those because I don't know what I'd do with them, but who cares? That's not the point. All right. Next question. So Skeleton said, when will we see more of the War Game show? It was awesome, but I can see some issues with trying to gather 3 people every other Friday. But he misses it. It was always great fun. Yeah, I miss it too. War Games was an awesome show. We did like 6 or 7 episodes. And you put your finger on exactly what the challenge was. Like herding cats to get 3 people in the community together to participate every other week is surprisingly tough. It's hard booking one guest for this show and having them show up on time and be ready and such. So getting like 3 people together that regularly and trying to pick lots of different people was tough. Now, here's what I would say. I actually have a question back for the community on this one. Do you want to see War Games come back? Is it a show you enjoyed? And would you mind if I repeated guests more? Because I really tried the first time to basically not repeat guests. And if you all out there think it would still be valuable if we had not the same 3 people every time, but if I could rely on, you know, having like 2 people or even show to show having the same thing, but then changing them out where I have availability.
Have the victor stay.
What's that?
Have the victor stay.
Sure, just beyond like, yeah, have the victor stay would be fine, but just not having to always get 3 new people. If that's still compelling, tell me in the comments, and I'm happy to kick it back off again. I would love to. I thought it was a great fun. Okay, Tom, you are a previous War Games winner, so, you know, we do still have a War Games Battle of Champions that has to happen at some point in time. Okay, Skeleton Flower. So we all know that Vince hates Nurgle and dwarves. Agreed. That is, I hate both of those things.
Vince doesn't do dwarves.
Skeleton agrees with the hating dwarves. But does Tom have any army that he feels equally repulsed and or bored by? All right, Tom, this one's for you. So what's your hated army?
Yeah, so, and I alluded to this, I think, the last time we talked about this conversation. And I think for me, like, so let me just say that it's not an army per se. But it's aesthetics. There are certain aesthetics that don't appeal to me. And so one of those is Slaanesh. I don't get it. Like, I know it sounds funny. Like, so I played Warhammer Online, and so there was a dungeon in Warhammer Online, and one of the end game dungeons called Lost Vale. And it was basically like a bunch of Slaanesh demons had corrupted this, you know, Vale and on whatever, you get the idea. So one of the bosses was Horgugugugulu, which was this big inverted weird like larger lady-esque thing walking, like crab walking around with a bunch of like big swingy saggy titties. And I don't get it. Like, if like like, I know it sounds weird, but like the aesthetic, like, so if it's supposed to be seductive, like, that's not doing it. Okay, like, throw a bunch of witch elves out there. Like, now you have like deadly and sexy, but you don't get that with demonettes. You get like half xenomorph, weird, like mutated things that don't speak to that what they're trying to get at. And so I just don't understand it. I also have young kids in the house that I'm hoping to someday like teach and to do Warhammer and Wargaming with, and so it's going to be hard to explain some of those models.
You're saying like corn stuff, totally fine.
Well, no,
17 heads hanging off his axe.
That's
inappropriate.
I'm getting there. So one of them. So for example, so Slaanesh is one of them that the aesthetic just doesn't appeal to me. For Khorne is another one that the aesthetic doesn't appeal to me because of just the at least when you like outrageously just splatter blood everywhere, which seems to be like Khorne's thing. Like that aesthetic of just like taking blood for the blood god and just like dumping it on your model.
Well, the name of the paint is kind of referencing him. So.
Right. I just can't get into it. Like I'm like, I don't know. So those aesthetics are aesthetics that don't appeal to me. And if I could do some of those armies in ways that I actually like the look of them, I could get behind them. So an example of this would be like Ogre Kingdoms is another one that in general like has just not appealed to me at all. Like it has this really weird aesthetic. The ogres are kind of these like bestial things, even though like I have a little bit different conception of them. Like I have a little bit more culture than the ogres that we see from a predominant of like at least the 8th models. That said, like I love Titan Forge's pirate ogres. Like I am secreting back money slowly to buy me an entire resin pirate ogre force. Like that is happening. And so like if the aesthetic is right, I can get in. Like I'm in on it. But so those are the things that really bother me. That said, with my profusion of armies that I have, I'm up to like 8 now or something stupid. There's not a lot that I don't like.
Sure. I think, along your lines of not liking Slaanesh and me hating Nurgle, that puts me to another question for the community. One of Archeon's monster rider's heads, he has a Khorne, a Tzeentch, and a Nurgle head. I'd really love to get rid of that Nurgle head and make it a Slaanesh head, but I need to know what monstrous head I should use to replace the Nurgle head with. So, again, community out there, give me some ideas. What head am I shoving in where Nurgle's head is? Boot him off of a model. He lost his place. Let's get Slaanesh up there. I would also accept a horned rat head. Maybe
I was going to say, you can do a Vermin Lord head.
Quick Skaven head up there. Yeah, I've still got extra Vermin Lord heads. That'd be pretty awesome. I'll think on it. All right. Next question. Hooves of Doom. What new development in Warhammer would you be most thankful for? That's a good question. So a new development in Warhammer itself. It's going to somewhat spoil one of the questions later, but honestly, just more. I would be most thankful for more community sort of interaction and communication from Games Workshop, and they're going the right way. It's not that they aren't in like radio silence like they have been. They're doing like the advent calendar thing. There's extra steps to communication. They're having sales. These are good steps. Like, is it perfect? No, absolutely not. We're still a long way from that word. But we're getting better. And I would be super thankful if they were engaging, if they had, members of the community if they had members of their own company that were tasked with being like community managers. I think that could go a long way to breed some goodwill. Just having a face on something really does help. What about you, Tom?
I think I would say for me that, like, this is going to sound really weird because it's going to sound oxymoronic. But the thing that would be different that I would be really thankful for, a change, something new, is that if when they release, and everybody's going to hate me for this, when they release High Elves, that they didn't change.
That you got the same elves. Just like,
yes.
High Elves. Yep, they're still like that.
So when they launch High Elves, like the reality is that they have secreted themselves away, and they've maintained their community. They've maintained their culture. Like, and maybe even like they found Ulthuan, even though it sank, they found the shard of Ulthuan and preserved Ulthuan. So like suddenly, like in the midst of the sea of all of this change, they haven't.
Sure. You want the elves to be the ever unchanging anchor at the middle of the GW narrative, right?
Yeah, and what I would say is that that's within the character of who they are. They are the slow adopters. They are the long, and so like I think it would be very interesting if we've had this sea of change sweep over the races, and at least the High Elves, that having maintained their culture. I think that would be a fascinating like change of pace from everything else we've seen.
Yep. No, that's good. All right. I like that. That's fine. I don't hate that.
Yeah.
But that being said, I personally would love to see the elves have some movement.
Yeah.
I'd love to see both. Why have the old elves that still exist, but also have some new cool splinter races of like elvish mercenaries and different stuff like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We can Taco Girl this. We can do both.
Yep.
Okay. Let's go to Scott R. He says, number 1, is there going to be a Pain-a-sode this Friday? No. Sorry to say, no, there is not. On the holiday weekend, I am playing a weekend-long game of D&D. So it's like 4 straight days of D&D. So starting Thanksgiving night. So there you go. That will be how I'm spending my weekend. So I'll be out of it somewhat. Though I promise there will be a Paint-a-sode coming again, as soon as I can, because after that many days away, I'll definitely want to get back into some painting. Okay, Scott R's next question. In San Diego, one store is running and supporting AOS, but only has like 6 players or so. I'm visiting friends in Connecticut, and no one here plays Age of Sigmar either. Is the game being played anywhere in good numbers? That's a tough question. I don't have any statistical data on that. My thought is yes, it is. I think it's varying as to how much and when and where. I think it's often being played like it is how I do it. I mean, I have 5 or 6 people in my group, and we all play in our basement. Like I have 7 in my basement. I don't go to the shop. So like if you and I were in the same city, I wouldn't even know you were looking for a game, right? And so my recommendation is, here's my easy recommendation. If you're in a major market like San Diego or something, there are people playing. I guarantee it. So what I would recommend is go to Twitter. Okay, go to people like Heel and Hammer and Garage Hammer and stuff like that, and just tweet at them and say like, "Hey, I'm trying to find people in my local area to play Age of Sigmar." Those people have big followings all across the country, all around the world, and they are very, very, very positive about helping people find players in their local community. I see retweets from them all the time where they're like, hey, player looking in San Diego, whatever. Yeah, and that kind of thing. Use that social media thing. See if there's like a Facebook group in the San Diego area, stuff like that. Talk to your Games Workshop store manager, see if there's anybody there, that kind of thing. It's tough because we've got to rebuild the threads of this community. There's no doubt that the community is different than it was. That we lost a lot of players, but a lot of new people are coming in too. But that doesn't necessarily help when you don't know who those new people are or how to get in touch with them, right? A lot of those old strings were cut. So utilize those things. And I would recommend like all those podcasts because they will like just tweet at them. They will gladly retweet it and you'll probably find people. Through the magic of social media, it'll make its way around. Any other thoughts on that, Tom? Does that seem fair to you?
Yeah, I was going to say go to your local store and just ask the manager and find if there are groups that are regular gaming and just begin to connect through there. Yeah, that would be my. I would say that it does seem that that the game has had wider adoption in the UK than in the US. Not that that helps us at all, but it seems like the more and more I'm kind of like looking for where the hot spots of AOS are. They are in fact in the UK.
Yep, agreed. All right, number 3 from Scott. Any rumors of cohesive rules for army building from GW have stopped floating around? And so basically, when it first came out, it was kind of rumored these were going to be there. Do we think that GW will ever come out with a set of rules? Like, I assume by that you mean like points and stuff like that for building armies. I mean, they have rules right now for building armies, and it's basically kind of do whatever you want. That is a set of rules. But I assume you mean like hard limitations is what you're looking for. Things like points or something of that nature. I'm going to let Tom answer this one first. Tom, do you think GW will ever come out with this?
Absolutely. There's no question in my mind. And it may not look like what we want it to look like. It may be things like wounds. It may be things like, some other combination of factors for force building. But I think that it is and will come. I think that this is kind of what I hit on when we were talking about the specialist games thing a couple weeks ago. I really think that we're seeing a grand kind of turnaround and rollout from GW. I think that we are in the thick of it, and we're just seeing the immediate changes, and we're not seeing the big picture. And with the specialist games change, to me, what that heralded a larger marketing transition in the company. All these sales, you're seeing a number of transitions. And I think that what you're going to see is some rule set that will accommodate that. Vince, do you want to talk about the tinfoil hat theory that we kind of spun out yesterday, the day before, regarding some of the lore and the direction?
Sure, yeah, you're talking about the chunk of the old world sitting in the middle of Sigmar.
Yep.
Yeah, sure. So if you remember your picture from the initial Age of Sigmar book with Space Station Sigmar, in the center of that space station is a big chunk, the core of the old world. And initially in that book, it was shrinking. But as the Stormcast are winning, it's growing again. Okay? And so I trotted out the idea to Tom of like a crazy tinfoil hat theory. What if Sigmar's like long-term plan is to recreate the old world? Like he takes back enough of the mortal realms, he grows this thing back to be as big as the old world, and he rebuilds the old world. And then we have a sort of copy of the old world and the mortal realms, and you've got both things kind of all in play at the same time. And that's a pretty crazy out there tinfoil hat idea. That being said, Games Workshop they're acting like Marvel here. Okay, these are the Cylons. They've got a plan, and that should be very obvious to anybody. This isn't just seat of your pants stuff anymore. Like they've been executing on a very careful set of steps for a long time. And I think I would not be surprised at all to hear that they have stuff like what you're asking about on their 3-year roadmap. I mean, any good business has at least a 3-year roadmap. They do, I promise. And, you know, I wouldn't be surprised to see that. I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of other different takes on playing the game and how to construct and stuff like that. I think that the idea that there's one way to play the game, which is kind of the 8th edition world, like there was this one game, it was a 2,500 point game. That's what it was. I understand there were differences, but really in the end, that's often what it boiled down to. And if more than 80% of the game is being played in that one way, that's the game. And I think that where you're going to see this world go over time is a lot of different ways and sizes to play and things like that. What I would say is in the interim, go check out Clash Comp. It's getting an update this weekend, actually, on Thanksgiving weekend. Mo is updating it again. You just search for like Clash Comp version 1.2. I'll try to remember to put a link down below. Fantastic system for doing lists and building armies. There you go. Like that will have everything you need. Just show your friends Clash Comp. I guarantee they'll love it if they like that sort of list building and points thing. It's simple. It's balanced. It's fun games. That's what I would say. So,
just to jump back briefly to your tinfoil hat.
Yes.
I just want to point out, like back in the beginning of, like when we were talking about this whole Age of Sigmar and then the immediate fallout and stuff like that, one of the things that I tinfoil hatted, should have point back to this, was this idea that maybe Age of Sigmar is a transition. The fact that it's Age of Sigmar itself says something about like it places the game in a period of time. And so whether that's the next edition where suddenly we're out of the Age of Sigmar and into some other version of Warhammer, that would lend itself to that, where in a sense we are in a transit. I said, like nothing, like if they really want to shake up the world, they would go into a period of just transition and then come out on the other side with a reworked, remade like child, where they've reshuffled everything around and changed the status quo enough that it's flexible. And that may be exactly, if from your observation, that may be exactly the trajectory that we're on. Yep. So that said, I think that we could even see a new Warhammer Fantasy on the other side of this. Which, by the way, let me just put another pin in something as an aside. We've been telling people from the beginning, don't sell your armies. Don't sell your armies. Don't sell your armies. It would not surprise me if, looking at, like, if I was in GW shoes, looking at a 10-year plan, one of the problems we have is that we have customers who have been with the company for 20 years and don't need to buy models anymore. Um, as while this may sound like a gambit, like a grand gambit of alienating their player base and then wooing people back after they've sold all their models.
So let me break down your theory. Let's cynically get people to sell their armies off.
Yep.
Then retrot out a game they love. So those people who've clearly proven they're willing to spend money will come back to us and spend money again.
Yeah. That actually, yeah. And that, yeah.
If somebody wrote that on a dry erase board in a business meeting I was in, I would kick them out of the room. that's insane. I like it's too. I don't buy that. But that being said,
Joker level planning.
That is some Joker level planning. Yeah, absolutely. That's some Skyfall stuff going on there. Or they could just keep making more games and putting out great minis, which I think is actually what it probably says on their whiteboard. Make more fun games that are easy to get into. Make more great minis. Step 3, complete. Like that's that. I don't think you need to get more complicated than that. We don't need to break out the bombs in 2 different places with to get Harvey Dent. All right. Next question. United Wargamer. What is the meaning of life? Tom, would you like to take this one?
Sure.
There's only one answer, Tom.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go the stereotypical route. If you want to answer that, go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Well, the obvious answer is, of course, to crush your enemies, to see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentation of their women. But
okay, I thought you were gonna go 42. But no, no. Let me just say that not to be too cliche, and I'm gonna dial us in to be a little bit serious briefly. But I think that like the heart of any life well lived is love. Okay. And I think that if you look at most world religions or whatever, love seems to be a central tenet of loving other, whether it's deity or God or national world or any of that other BS. So I think that I don't think that this is an anomaly. So for me, like that's what's so fantastic about our community. It's something that almost, to use kind of the language of my own tradition, is sacramental. It's a place where we kind of pour ourselves into our shared work, and I alluded to this earlier, that we pour ourselves into our work and into one another as we share with one another. Like that's our hobby is something that we love. It's a meeting place where we meet with one another and we share who we are. So I think that we become kind of little C creators in the midst of this, and I think that kind of proleptically points to greater things and yada yada. But I'll stop here. I don't want to start preaching.
No, that's fine. I agree with your point completely. Yeah, the meaning of life is to not get hung up on small stuff, and fill it with things you are passionate for that hopefully create more good around you and engage others to also live sort of passionate, virtuous lives themselves. That's it. It's really easy. Do stuff that's fun. It doesn't hurt people. That's it. It's that easy. That's this whole thing. I love this, and I love hanging out with all of you. And I kind of like Tom, so it's fine. I mean, he's all right. If I could find somebody better, I'd switch, but I've known him for too long. It's sunk cost at this point. All right. Erasmus says, would you and your gaming group accept something like a custom war scroll combining Warriors of Chaos and Screamer stats for the Tzeentch Manta Rider model you suggested, or a sorcerer on a disc? Yes, totally. I would. Yeah, I could sell that to my group, certainly. I think I'd love to see a custom war scroll. That'd be fantastic. Also, Tom,
fairly tight ability, tight groups though. So, like that's not, and we have game design experience.
I say somebody out there make the war scroll and throw it up on the YouTubers page. Let's get it to take off. I love it. I mean, Tyler Emerson did that awesome Tyrion scroll. It was great. There's no reason why we can't do that. This is our game now. Let's it's not under the control of anyone else but us. And I say, take those reins. Also, Tom, William Page told you that you're insane. I just want you to know that.
Thanks.
He said your theories are normally spot on, but this one he thinks you're out of your mind. Not about your meaning of life. That's correct. Your previous theory about GW's long-term cynical plan.
No, I don't think it's a cynical. Like I actually think it could be a very well thought out, calculated risk, especially if they're not making money from those customers, anyways. And in the end, it just ends up being a benefit. I don't want to defend that. I'll just let that sit though.
Fair enough. All right, Kieran Dunleavy had a question, and he said, "I am thankful for the community of hobbyists that is galvanized by the efforts of yourselves, MC1 Gamer, William Page, Merrick, OB, Sustainable Center, Jeff Egan, the Merritts, Victor Case, Long Island Wargaming, Hooves, and many, many others that he doesn't, that he didn't name, but all the people who produce. And I agree, there's so many great producers out there. It is a embarrassment of riches, to use my old phrase again, to bring that back. I know you love that, Tom. And he said, what single thing are we most thankful for in this past year of the Warhammer YouTubers? So if you had to pick one thing with the Warhammer YouTubers, Tom, what are you most thankful for? I know mine. Mine is super easy.
The encouragement through the PMP. Like, there's just no question about that. I started painting just over a year ago. I take that back. It's been probably 2 years. I was painting for 6 months before I came into Warhammer. But, and just the encouragement and the pushing and all of that of the PMP, I've thoroughly, it's been beneficial.
Yep. Mine, easy. My best moment out of this last year was a really positive memory in my entire life, and that was doing the Warhammer YouTubers World Tour. Right, I was driving around, hanging out with Ant and Mitch and Nick from Long Island Wargaming and Matiram and Skip and Mike and Obi and Brandy and Lord T and his group, and then of course Tom. I think that sounds about everybody on the trip there. I don't think I missed anybody. I would have loved to stop and see even more people, and I plan to do more of those tours. So when I kick it off, hey, if you're somewhere where I'm going, I would love to stop, get a game of any kind of Warhammer on with you, be that 9th or Age of Sigmar or 8th or anything. I'll bust out the figs and we can have some scrap and we can have a nice fun punch up. But that was an amazing experience. I put 4,000 miles on that car in like 8 days. So that was pretty good. Played like 13 games of Warhammer. It was a hell of an awesome 8 days. I'll say that. And it excites me I really want to do it again. So there you go. And it's funny because I came off of that weekend, off that week, I should say, going, man, I need to play some more Warhammer. Well, it wasn't exhausting to it at all. I was like, I want to play some more, not less. All right. Okay, Tyler Emerson. What do you guys think are some of the biggest things that GW could do that they might actually do that could greatly increase AOS sales and the number of new players, especially in large markets like North America and the UK? So I guess, Tyler, what you're asking is, what do we think are the likely things they'll do that would have that effect? Like, what would be within reason for them to do, not pipe dream stuff? Tom, have you got any initial thoughts on that one?
Be in dialogue with the community. I think that, or at least responsive to the community. Okay, they don't even have to have a community manager. And I think that we're seeing that already, which is why I think that it could happen. And I think that the sales are an example of this. The outcry that people have had for years about them not offering things at discounts or in bundles or anything like that, and now we see that and we have that, and not like one or two of these. Like, these are being rolled out on a weekly basis. Yep. Of like actual bundled discounted deals.
Yep. Agreed. The bundles are a good step. Communication, good step, and possible. They're clearly on that trajectory. I'd love to see more entry stuff. And I think that's what we'll get with the specialist games. We're going to get a lot more entry. I think we'll get some more entry stuff. Like Betrayal of Calth could get you going. Like the Age of Sigmar box could get you going. I'd love to see like a Mordheim or a Blood Bowl or a Necromunda or any, like those things that would sort of naturally transition you into the broader game. I bet it's probably still owned by like Hasbro or whoever made the original one.
No,
I'd love to see a new Hero Quest, right? Or a Battle Masters or something. Like, that would be amazing. I don't think it's going to happen because I bet the rights are not where they should be. But
but can you imagine? Like, think about this. Like, to have something like that, and then to basically say, like, have the base game, and then have like an expansion, like a $10 expansion, whatever. And to play this expansion, go buy a box of Ungor, buy a box of Chaos Warriors, and buy a Jabberslide. And like those are the models that you need to play for your players to play through this dungeon. Like,
absolutely,
from a cross marketing standpoint, like, man, like there's just so much potential there. So GW, if you're listening, and we know you're retweeting Vince's photos, make it happen.
I agree. I'm really curious about the about who owns this, who owns Battle Masters right now. I think that would be I think that would be a good thing to know. Let's see if I can find it real quick here while we're talking. Okay, so oh, it's around there. Okay, I'll look at that as we move on. All right, so number 2, related to number 1, what are some of the biggest things that GW does that you think hurts their ability to greatly grow support for AOS? It's tough. I mean, here's what I'll say. I think it will and is growing over time. I think that there is a very vocal minority that's very opposed because they feel as though GW has personally attacked them by cutting off old fantasy. I think is what is the perception that GW has somehow personally slighted them. You're not going to, regardless of the fairness or whatever of that feeling, it doesn't matter. You're not going to win that person over easily. But that person has all right to be loud and to express their opinion, of course. And that's always going to be a tough thing during a big transition like this.
Yep.
I think they could do better. What's hurting them is not giving that roadmap in some degree to the community. But the problem is, honestly, we can't handle it to its full degree. 3-year roadmaps, like year 2 is questionable. Year 3, everything is off. Could just change at the drop of a hat. And the reality is, we as human beings, as adults, aren't mature enough to handle that. If they said, here's our 3-year roadmap, keep in mind, everything in year 2 and 3 is subject to change. At a moment's notice, it could easily fall off, completely disappear, be replaced by different stuff. None of this we are committing to. They could have it in giant letters written across everything. The second they moved an item off of that roadmap, people would lose their minds. Just like that. So, I mean, I'm not sure that it would do them any favors to really give a true long-term vision. That being said, their releases for like the next 6 months are pretty set. I wouldn't mind having a window into what that looks like, right? Not that I don't love the rumor mill and being able to do that. It's cool, but it would just move the rumor mill out 6 months. That's all that would happen. Instead of talking about next week, we'd be talking about 6 months and a week away. But I think that really hurts them. I think the other thing that they do is not having any involvement in a lot of various scenes. I'd love to see them have some more, not tournaments per se, but just events at like conventions and stuff. Do narrative events and tournaments, because the game can really be played that way and in a fun way. Do that stuff. And not doing it just lets everybody think that the only way to play this game is still the 5 games, we line up, we smash each other in the face, and if the game doesn't do that, it's not a good game for this.
Yep.
And look, it's a perfectly valid way to play, but it's not the only way to play.
Took the words right out of my mouth. Yep.
Okay. What do you think about the present state of tabletop gaming, and where do you hope it is 3 to 5 years from now? What do you hope what do I think the tabletop gaming landscape looks like in 5 years? Oof, boy, that's a big one. Tom, I'm going to let you take this one first because I just rambled for a while.
I have no idea. Yeah, I really have nothing because, I mean, there are a lot of big questions on the horizon. Things like 3D printing, I don't think that's going to influence things a whole lot. But what I think it could do is I think that the main companies are going to continue to lumber on. But I think that some innovative companies are going to come in, see that as an opportunity. For example, Dragon Tiles, which is like a paper terrain company, just had a Kickstarter for 3D terrain. And so the dude sculpted a bunch of 3D terrain, and basically the Kickstarter was to sell the files to 3D print your own terrain, like in a la Dwarven Forge style. And so I think some companies could come along and basically release entire games where you print all of your own miniatures. And so I think that, like, I think those new, young, innovative companies could do that, and potentially we could have that on the market. And I think that there would be low overhead. So I think there'd be a lot of money in that type of business. That said, I don't think that, I don't know. There's just way too much up in the air. If you had asked me when 4th edition D&D released, what would happen 5 years down the road with D&D, I couldn't have predicted that. I don't know that I could have predicted at the launch of 4th edition that they would basically scrap their game and go into a mass community, the largest playtest that's ever been done of a game in history, and go back to the basics. And enlist people I know to be on the consulting team. I mean, like I could have never foreseen that move at the beginning of 4th edition. And I think that that is where we're at with Games Workshop. We are at the front end of something vastly large and vastly different. And I don't know that we can predict that.
Right. Yeah, I think that trying to predict 3 to 5 years from now is always tough because the world could be completely different. But you asked what I hope it looks like, and I do definitely have an answer for you there. So my answer for what do I hope the world looks like 3 to 5 years from now, I've got a simple answer. Lots of games, lots more games, and bigger market. I want to see things like, my hope is that things like 3D printing and stuff like that, and expand the world of who cares about tabletop games and who wants to play them and who is playing them. I don't need a game to win. I don't want a game to win. I'm not looking to have one Titan like we had. There's plenty of space. I want to see this market grow through a big, healthy, positive community that reaches out in all of our games and shares what we're passionate about and brings more people into these great games, to Infinity, to Malifaux, to Age of Sigmar, to whatever your choice is. I don't care. If I didn't mention it, it's not because I don't think it's good. It's whatever you like. And it just grows it out. Like, there are untapped players out there who we could bring into this community who would be great. I want to see us grow it, and I want to see all these games be out there. I think the best part about what's going on right now is that we do have a split in now, like, there's the Ninth Age being developed for kind of very Johnny people who want that type of game. We have Age of Sigmar, maybe more for like the Timmy people like myself. And you know, I just want to see continued evolution of that. More games available that speak to you and who you are. That seems like a better market to me. And I think we can get there. So there you go. By the way, the answer is Battle Masters is a registered trademark of Hasbro. So Hasbro does still own Battle Masters. And its registration date, its most recent registration date, okay, was November 24th, 2015. Yesterday.
Oh, snap.
Oh, snap. Now, it was originally filed back in 2013. It was published for opposition in 2014. And its most recent registration date was November 24th, 2015. So, hey, who knows? Maybe Hasbro is looking to re-kick off the Battle Masters thing. So there you go.
Expand out D&D's reach.
Yeah, wouldn't that be amazing to see Battle Masters 2.0? That is funny that the trademark on that's yesterday. By the way, Hasbro also owns the digital trademark on Battle Masters as well, the rights to develop it for like your phone and stuff like that. So there you go. USPTO, it's fun. Okay. What have been some of your favorite moments in your long history of playing Warhammer? Oh boy. I've been playing Warhammer since like 97, so that's going to be tough to break down into a short conversation. I will give you one of my most favorite moments ever. And this is going to be hard to understand, probably, or weird that I would think it a great moment. Back in the days of 5th edition, armies were way, 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 way smaller than what they are now. Like, that is, the points were the same. It was like 2,000 points or whatever is what you played. But armies were just much smaller. Okay? So, like, you're a good-sized unit had, like, 12 dudes or 20 dudes was big. Okay? Your frontage on a unit at that time was only, like, 4 to get a full rank. So there's a lot of differences going on. The units were small, numbers were smaller, whatever. Skaven at that time, which I was playing, was still a horde army. And I had read about some tactic where you packed like 2 assassins into your Skaven block, and you had like your general in that block and maybe another character, your BSB, and your BSB had the banner of the Horned Rat, which made the unit have fear. And basically, if you got broken, or not broken, if you got beat, even by 1, by an enemy unit that was bigger than you and caused fear, you auto broke. Okay, like there was no roll. You just broke and fled. That was the rule at that time. So I packed this 75, like 5 by 15 long Skaven block, which was insane at that time. That's just like in a world of where units are 20, having a 75 deep Skaven slave unit is just Looney Tunes. And I packed this thing up. I put all these characters in it. It's most of my army. Top of 1 goes to my dwarven opponent on the other side of the table, takes his flame cannon, calls maximum guess range, rolls maximum range on the dice, burns the corner that just touches the very corner tip of 1 Skaven slave. Just gets that much. And at that time, if you just touched, you had to 4-up to see, like it wasn't auto hit if you're covered by the template. So you had to roll a 4-up to hit him, which he did. You had to wound him, which he did, and he killed him. And if a unit takes any wound from a flamed weapon, they make a panic test. It was just as true then as it is now. Failed, bolted, ran off the table. My whole army, it was like 1,700 points of 2,000 points, turned and ran off the table. First dice roll, first round. And I was like, that's amazing. That is the greatest, quickest victory just I'd ever experienced. And I still love that to this day because I love big, crazy, swingy things like that. I think they're funny that they can happen. I wasn't angry because that's a story. I remember that. Like, it's been 17 years. I remember that story because it's a crazy moment. Those out there moments, like, you might get angry individually when you lose a game every so often because things don't go your way. It doesn't matter. You're going to forget it in 2 days. You're not going to remember that. You're going to lose a bunch of games. You're going to win a bunch of games, and they're all just going to be water under the bridge. But those big, crazy moments that you can't predict, that are out there, that just had no chance, those are going to stick. So games, I have to see that kind of stuff happen. Tommy, what about you? What do you got? What's a good memory for you?
Not a lot, just because I'm a younger player, and so I have many less games.
Sure. Is it me Eiffel Towering double your Savage Orc block?
No, thanks, Dick. No, I think that it was. I think it was my first game ever. And you had constructed an army for me, and I was going to pick up my high elves, which were basically at your house, from somebody that we had bought them from used, and I was jazzed that I was going to get to do it, and you had the Banner of the World Dragon in a block of Phoenix Guard, and I remember, like, obviously I'm brand new to the game. Like, top of first round, you obviously your teammate, because you were playing against me, takes off my Archmage off of my dragon, because you would give me an Archmage on a dragon.
I did.
Yeah, so I never got to actually cast. It was my cast for that first game. But that wasn't the favorite part. The favorite part was lining up against the Vampire Counts player, and this individual had played for years and years. Like, he is a veteran. He had lined up with my high elves and was just going to plow straight forward into a group of like 10 Phoenix Guard or 15 Phoenix Guard. And he was just so cocksure of himself. And like, it was a Phoenix Guard unit with a Banner of the World Dragon lining up against a Blender Lord Vampire, which means that everybody in the entire block had a 2-up ward save against him.
Right. Because he had a magic weapon.
Because he had a magic weapon, exactly. And just the look on his face when suddenly he realized that this wasn't going to be his Slaughterfest 5,000.
No, that instantly that guy was going to crumble. Like, he was going to die because he's going to kill no one. And on standing combat res alone, you were going to crumble that vampire.
Yeah. And it was just that immediate transition, and I was like, "Oh, this is beautiful." Like I savored that moment of like a crushed will of a veteran player.
Sure. No, that is great. That is great. Oh, Banner of the World Dragon. How many hearts have you broken over the years? She's a torrid mistress, that one. Um, so William Page said that he thinks a 6-month schedule for releases would hurt GW's bottom line. If I know that I can purchase 3 months down the road, I would start making decisions based on comparing now to later, rather than being in the dark and buying them now in a vacuum. Sure. I mean, it's tough, right? I don't completely disagree with you, William, but I mean, the problem is that, like, yes, I understand you can do that. I don't know that it changes the mechanic that much. At the same time, like,
You don't
the
know what's
hype machine
disappearing.
will be out there to build stuff up, and like, it also, you've got to think about what's the advantage on the flip side of having 6 months to be like rah rah rah, check it, pictures, woo, and that kind of thing. When the hype machine goes in, like, there's a reason movie trailers drop the way they do, right? Because the hype train rolls, woo woo, and like, they could be doing the same thing. I mean, obviously, a lot of other game companies do release a far away in advance, and it doesn't seem to hurt their sales, but they're also not on the magnitude of GW. So I don't know, and I don't know how we would test it other than to do it. And even then, it wouldn't be a good scientific test because we don't have a control. All right, here's what I need you to do, William. I need you to create an alternate universe that's a copy of this one. We'll make the GW in that universe, announce a 6-month roadmap, and then we'll just compare. Then we can do a proper scientific test. Okay. Tyler Emerson's next question. What kind of specialist games do you think could be set within the AOS story and universe that could help build stronger interest? That's a great question. So in, sort of in Mortal Realms or in AOS era specialist games, Tom, have you got any thoughts on this one?
Other than a revival of Mordheim, where they're exploring the remnants of a destroyed city.
That's a good one. I've heard that a couple people are working on that.
No, because we really don't know anything about anywhere. Like, it sounds terrible, but like, they would have to develop some place where people are invested in that they can then explore or grow. Yeah, I'm stuck. Like, I don't have a lot of good suggestions.
Okay. I've got two. Here's the first one. The first one is Skaven in the Realm of Death. So Skaven are currently fighting Nagash in the Realm of Death. And I want to see a Skaven zombie killing game. In the nature of like Zombicide and all the rest of those types of games, only you've got a pack of like gutter runners or night runners or something, and you're like running around and you try to like silently off the zombies before they start building up and surrounding you and murdering you. So like 6 Skaven ninjas trying to fight down an army of zombies to get out of the realm of death. Game number 1. I'm totally in for that. Here's game number 2. The elves have to recover a bunch of artifacts from their old world that have been scattered across the mortal realms. And so we have like an elvish, like sort of dungeon builder game, kind of like if you think of like Castle Ravenloft for D&D or those kinds of games. You play a party of sort of elvish heroes exploring like different tile-based dungeons that you lay out and build on a series of missions, right, around the mortal realms to recapture relics of the old world you need to free your people and rebuild your civilization. There you go. How you like that, Tom? How's that grab you?
Yeah. Where are they doing this excavating? Like exploring these
dungeons that are out there in the mortal realms, because this was occupied territory.
Are there dungeons?
Game, we would learn. Yes, it was all people lived there before chaos came in. So for like thousands of years, people lived there in peace. So this would also let us then learn about that, right? Like we could use this to explore and learn about those realms. So like one of the scenarios would be in the realm of metal. The ancient dwarven halls of blah, blah, blah on Charon were occupied by King Grungi Magungi, and it did this and that, and you got to go get this thing. Boom.
So can I ask a question? Like,
Dude.
Maybe this is just my ignorance of Age of Sigmar, but so do we know, like, so the people that lived there were actually not old world people. They were other people that knew nothing of the chaos gods previously?
I think both is the answer. Like, I think Sigmar did pull, like, some of them were people from the old world, and some of them were just people who apparently lived there or something.
Okay. So, like, are they all the same races?
No, in the original Age of Sigmar, yes and no. In the original Age of Sigmar book, they make reference to like 2 races that are non-canonical. That is to say, like I've never heard of before. I'd have to go dig out the book to find you the exact words, but
Yeah.
there are at least 2 races they mentioned that are not anything I've ever read or heard in the fluff. I'm not saying it's impossible that they've never been mentioned. God knows there's, 30 years of fluff, and I'm certainly not the master of it all. But I have certainly never heard of the 2 races they just offhandedly mentioned. So certainly it's possible that other stuff's out there.
So, okay. Like I don't know. Like this is what frustrates me is. So was Chaos in this realm before Sigmar showed up, or did Chaos follow Sigmar here? Because that's not real clear, is it?
Chaos followed Sigmar here.
So it's Sigmar's fault that the 9 realms have been trashed.
No, not necessarily. It was the whole like Sigmar and Tyrion. It was really the elves' fault actually, because Tyrion's kind of the one who set them off.
Of course, clearly it's always Tyrion's fault, or it's always the elves' fault. Why did the 9 realms then map to the winds of magic?
They've always existed. They were just the source of the winds of magic.
Yeah, I'm asking these questions just to tease out the ridiculousness of this lore. Like, I don't know.
Look, that's why tinfoil hat, old world being rebuilt. Just give it time. It's got to grow. It's like a small strawberry. It's going to be real big and fat soon. All right. And then finally, Stu Gibson's question. This is our last one, and it's good because we're going on here. All right, Stu Gibson's question. I love this question. I'd like to know what changes you and Tom would make if you woke up tomorrow morning and found yourselves co-owners of GW. Nice. All right, step number 1. I fire Tom. That's happening right out of the gate. Just get rid of my opposition. He's gone. Single owner now. That's step 1. All right, no, Tom, what do you do?
Man, I don't know. I didn't prep for this question. You go ahead first.
Okay. Yeah, so I get to be king for a day, right? What a funny question. Okay, the obvious answer, the legitimate real answer is, obviously spend a ton of time trying to learn the logistics of this massive company that I unqualifiedly have now taken over, okay? But real answer aside, let's go to what I think you're aiming at, which is sort of what would I want to see. I would want to see, I would execute everything I told you about. I would hire a communications community manager. They would be integrating, talking. I would ship them all over the world at every opportunity to go to conventions, to stuff, to talk to people, to host narrative events. I would be pretty open with what was coming out. I would keep the roadmap fairly short. That's what I reveal. Like, I honestly would maintain some of the GW secrecy. I think it's good. It creates brand mystique. And I think it is a monetizable thing they've done. I would make more things at more price points, which is exactly what their current president's doing, which is the right answer. I'd have more low buy-ins, and I'd have more expensive stuff too. I would absolutely put out Archon at $165 because people are going to buy it, and it's that kind of fig. It's meant for people who want it at that level. I would also have starter intro stuff at $20, $30 boxes, right? And you do a big range. I think that my only other thing is I would probably get and they already are kind of doing this, I guess, but I would shed that Lord of the Rings Hobbit stuff as quick as possible. I would divest myself of that anchor. Those are my thoughts, and I would relaunch Mordheim. Aha, there you go. Tom, any thoughts now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to echo a lot of what you're suggesting. I would streamline the product flow, and what I mean by that is that I would create an interconnectedness between my various lines. And so, and you have kind of alluded to this, but I would have a starter game at $50. That's Mordheim. That's a small warband scale, and I would have it built in such a way that it flows into the larger mass battles game. And such that you're buying terrain for the Mordheim game, and you're like, oh, wait a minute, I can use this for the mass battles game. This whole thing relates. I would have, so in addition to the skirmish and the mass battles game, I would have some type of role-playing extension set in the world that is buying the same boxes. It's your hero quest. A board game level entry like that. and I don't know that I would go into a full RPG, but like the Hero Quest level engagement that has expansions that ties back to the main product line, which is itself miniatures. I would probably create. I would I had teased this out as a possibility for specialist games. I would relaunch Warhammer Fantasy 8th as Warhammer Legends, or Warhammer Age of Legends, or Age of Myth. And what I would do is I would start that off by relaunching the 8th edition book, the main book, recover it, basically keep the contents, the interior basically the same. And I would then launch a Skaven book, an 8th edition Skaven book as the first book out. Then I might do Bretonnians, and then I might jump back to like a classic race, or relaunch one of the classic races, and then cycle back through basically to a minimally supported product that is now pushing people back to the main miniature line through specialist games. So the idea would be to, no matter which side of your entry point, it's all funneling back into their miniature business, and all of it is support product for their miniature business, which is what GW is and what GW does. I would have jumping on the community manager thing. I would go full in on community management of both digital communities and I would want people present and in like GW managed forums where we could have conversion contests and we could have the whole host of various things to help facilitate the hobby and encourage and I would pull White Dwarf off of the periodicals shelf so fast, like that thing would die as a print thing, and it would move towards a digital style distribution. I wouldn't even have a subscription probably, but I would just have staff writing articles on all things hobbying, conversioning, painting, because it doesn't make sense to charge to teach people how to paint your miniatures. You want to encourage people to buy your miniatures. That's where your money's at. And so you don't want to create further gates for them, monetary gates. And so you want to be inviting them into the process of buying and painting your miniatures. And so I would create White Dwarf as probably an extension of the app that also is an extension of a website, the Warhammer app, and have articles on painting and videos and all that stuff provided through that medium. And I would even consider doing some extension with a digital tabletop of Warhammer, maybe, and branch into digital like Warhammer as we know it on a digital interface. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if that's a core functionality or if we license that out or not. But needless to say, I would have something along those lines as well.
Sounds like a buy, not a build to me. That's outside of your core competency.
Yeah.
So, no, those are all fun, all good, all things that we should never do because neither Tom nor I should ever be in charge of anything important. This show is probably too much responsibility for people of our intellectual capability. My God, I can't even imagine being in charge of a several million-pound company. That's just a nightmare. If you don't put us there unless you want Games Workshop to go out of business overnight. Like that's what happens there. That's a publicly traded company. Shareholders would be dumping stock faster than you could imagine. Oh, we put two random idiots from the United States in charge. Oh, cool. Sell. All right. So, Tom, that brings us to the end of our questions, and I think we've been going for a while, so I think that this brings us to the end of our show. Do you have any final thoughts on our Thanksgiving spectacular here before we sign off for the night?
Oh, yeah. Travel safely, friends. I know a lot of people are going to be traveling for the holidays. Drive safely. And snatch up those deals. There's a lot of deals out there. A lot of really affordable miniatures. Keep your eyes open. In 3 hours from now, or not 3 hours, 2.5 hours from now, the
War Store.
Yeah, their sale at the 5% discount with additional stuff goes live. So, yep. That's what I would say.
Absolutely. Yeah, life is short. Paint more miniatures. Come on. You can always get food. You'll find that later. Don't worry about it. Just get minis. That's what's important. No, I do want to thank everybody out there in the community. We've had a wonderful time so far this year, and there's still much more to go. And it's been absolutely great. I loved all the questions we got today when I threw this up. So thank you to everyone out there. I love seeing all the viewers every week, seeing all the engagement. As always, love the comments. Leave them below every time you can. Always respond to everyone, and that's not because I feel obligated to. It's because I want to. I absolutely love talking with everybody in the community, and I love logging into my email and seeing a new comment. That just makes me happy. So thank you all out there very much. We love you all, of course. Safe and happy Thanksgiving. May you all have way too much food and fall asleep dreaming of Warhammer. And as always, we'll see you next Wednesday.